All right, back down to Chiefs Pit, Timmy Petty, Mark Petty, and Richie Petty. Special guest, Kyle Petty in the house. So,
oh, it's going to be good.
So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. We ain't got enough time to cover it, so we're going to hit some different things here.
Many episodes?
But
more to come?
More to come.
More to come, yeah.
Always more, man.
Oh, yeah. So welcome to the Chiefs
Thanks
Pit.
for having me. Thanks for having me. I've been enjoying your stuff.
Who's starting the show here?
Well, let's start right here.
Yeah, and level cross is not froze over.
No, that's right. Oh, and we didn't get washed away.
And nobody's mad yet.
Yeah.
Well, our family has deep ties with Daytona Beach. And grandfather went down there and run the beach course and won it in 54.
Yeah.
Went on into the 59 and won the first race. I always thought it was kind of neat. You and grandfather had a neat tie-in. Your first race at Daytona,
Yeah.
you won the ARCA race. His first race down there for the Grand National, he won.
Yeah.
So that's a neat tie-in for.
Listen, can you imagine? And listen, you can talk to. I know your dad's told you, and you talked to granddaddy and daddy and them. They said when they first rolled through that tunnel, they'd never seen anything like that. I mean, we just grew up with it,
Right.
Yep. So we were used to it by the time I came down and drove and stuff, and we've been there so many times. But man, can you imagine what it was like going from North Wilkesboro or Martinsville and then showing up at Daytona?
What the hell was this? It was just a monster. It scared the hell out of me, I'll put it that way. And it didn't only scare me, it scared everybody that come down in through that tunnel. Because we'd been running half a mile, quarter miles, and maybe a mile track now and then. And we look up there and see this monster, you know what I mean? And God, people's eyes popped out of their head. And so I said, well, to myself, those fellas ain't got no more experience in running this dang race car than I have.
Well, I know how hard it was for me in that truck to hold it wide open the first lap. Like you said, they was on freaking street tires.
So I have to tell you this. So here's what we did. We went down there the first time and went down to test. So when they said, y'all get that Magnum ready, then you can go test. So Steve Mill helped me, and we got that Magnum ready, and then got it all loaded up. Took it down on Clyde. Remember Clyde Road?
Yep.
Roll back.
Yep.
Took it down on
Love
Clyde.
that truck. Love it.
That's a great truck, man. That's great. I don't know where Clyde ever came from, where the name came from, but I mean, it was just everybody called it Clyde, man.
Yeah.
So we go down there, and King says, my dad says, he puts on a helmet and puts on his stuff, and he gets in, and he goes out and runs like 2 or 3 laps. He runs like 193 or 4 in it. I mean, that's during that period of time. That's pretty good. And they just repaved the place. That was my saving grace, because it was just repaved it. It was a brand new. So first time they repaved it since Granddaddy won.
Right.
So that's another interesting thing. He won on the original
New
pavement, and I won on the first new pavement.
That is
That's an
neat
interesting
tie.
thing. That's
Oh,
cool.
yeah.
I hadn't even thought about that.
Oh, yeah.
So
Gotta write that down.
he goes out and runs, and he comes in, and he says, put that car cover in over there. So we dumped that car cover in on the right-hand side. He said, get in. So I climbed in. I thought he was just going to go out and just ease.
This was the king?
Yeah.
Okay.
I thought he was going to go out and ease around and show me like where to run. So we go out, and he's, next thing I know, we're headed down the backstretch. Wide butt open. and he's like, when you get up to speed, you want to get up here and you want to run. And he's just screaming, you know what I mean?
I never knew that happened.
And he's screaming, and he's hollering, and he's like, you don't want to, they've eliminated this bump coming off of here. And he's doing, he's telling you all this stuff. We run like 192, you know what I mean? And I come in, and I'm like, now what? And he's like, here's the helmet, go. And I went out, first lap, 151 miles an hour.
Oh, yeah.
151 miles an hour. I was on it, man. You talk about not being able to get on the game. I didn't even know whether I was on the straightaway or in the corner. Couldn't get my eyes to focus.
Well, because when you first go in there, if you've never been there, you look in the corner, all you see is black.
Black, that's
you
right.
You got to learn how to look through the
You got to look through there.
Yeah.
You got to look in the
narrow.
different place.
Yeah.
It gets really narrow. It looks like a huge place until you get out there.
Well,
So that was a crazy deal, man. So
I don't know if I've ever heard you tell it.
Yeah, every time I go out, I promise you, we were there for 2 or 3 days. But every morning, you would have to readjust. It was like my brain. I just couldn't take that much information.
Mark said that about Dover.
Yeah, Dover's crazy. Dover's crazy.
But you talking about riding with the king. Daddy told me this story.
Darlington.
At the Darlington, they was down there testing. And he said, King talked him into getting in there and riding with him. Same deal. He said,
Yeah.
I figured we'd just put around.
That's right.
And he said he's running
Up
wide
against the
open,
wall.
bouncing off the wall, and laughing at
Laughing
him.
at him.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And Daddy said, told the good Lord right then if I ever got out, he said, I never got back in one again.
That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
right. It's scary to ride with people.
Now-
You know that.
But he said the King, like you said, was just
Oh,
like,
Talking.
no big
just
deal.
talking.
Yeah.
It wasn't no big deal.
Yep.
Now back to Daytona. My first experience down there, you was 18.
Yeah.
I was 20 years old, and I'd been running a little
Yeah,
bit, so
yeah.
I had a little experience. But I'd never been on a big track like
Yeah.
Daytona. And I remember we showed up down there for ARCA test and had a Chevrolet, and you was walking to the garage. Daddy said, "Hey Kyle, come over here and go out there and shake it down." So you went out there
Yeah.
and shook it down. So that gave me confidence
Yeah.
to go out there and run. But I was telling Mark the other day, we got to laughing. My brain was telling me to lift
Yeah.
on this side, and this side was telling me to hold it down.
Yeah.
And it took me about 3 times out there before I could hold it down.
Yeah.
And I promise you, the first
Same
time
deal.
I did it, I guess, I don't know if I was so anxious or whatever, but I had a nosebleed.
Yeah, I'm sure because it's crazy. It's crazy. You're out there and you're so focused when you first start doing it. You're so focused on hanging on to the steering wheel, holding the accelerator down,
Yep, I was.
staying between the walls and stuff. I'll tell you this is crazy. I remember going out and running wide open for like the second or third time and coming in. My seatbelts were never had
Right.
connected.
Right.
Because I
Right.
forgot to put them on
Yeah.
when I went out. You know what I mean? You just
There's a
got
lot
in.
going on.
Yeah, and it's like you were so focused, you didn't even know that you weren't strapped in. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Now, we went back to Daytona when I did my first Cup race, and I was sitting there on pit road, and I went out there, and I came back in and told them, I said, "These son of a guns, they practice harder than we race."
Yeah, they do practice.
Well, hell, they hit the racetrack. It took me like 2 or 3 laps to get
Yeah.
the speed up.
No.
Hell, they're hitting it right off.
That was the and that was the deal for me when I came along, and like in the late 70s, in 79, 80, 81, 82. Because my dad was still there, Bobby was still there,
Oh, yeah.
Cale was still there, Pearson was still there, Earnhardt had just showed up. I mean, it was a real deal, dude.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
You got all that old stuff, and those guys were tough as
Well, hell,
tough as freaking
you'd get out.
nails, dude.
I'd
You know what I
get
mean?
out of the car. I'd be wore out, and then these cats walking by smoking cigarettes.
Hold on, I told that story many times. ran that first Cup race I ever run. I'm at Talladega, and race is over with, and I'm laying on the concrete like an old dog, and getting beams pouring water over me, and I got a towel over my face, and I feel something in my ribs, and does it again, and I look up, and Pearson's standing there, and he's got a cigarette and a beer, and he's like, "You're gonna have to get a lot tougher to keep on racing." And that's it. And I thought, God Almighty, these old guys are tough. I'm 18 years old. I just came out of high school playing football, basketball, baseball.
shape of your life.
Yeah, I thought I was
Yeah.
in the best shape of my life, and I can't go 500 miles at Talladega where you just drive
Well,
like
I know.
this. You know what
I
I mean?
know you've run marathons. I've run a marathon. Mark's run some runs.
Timmy's run a lot.
Yeah, but I was going to say,
Run a lot of food through here.
running a race car for 500 miles was tougher than running
Yeah,
a marathon.
yeah, it was. It was.
People don't understand the mental problem
it's
and the
the mental.
physical.
Yeah,
it's
it's-
tough.
We have
It's
Joe
tough.
an athlete.
Yeah,
no
no,
problem.
it's
Well,
yeah, no, you're right.
That's what I'm
You're
saying,
100%.
overcoming.
You can't. That's the hardest part to convey to people is how hard it is between your ears. How hard it is to focus for that long period of
Yep.
time, and just to be in that moment.
See, I didn't
So-
realize we was going to get into the racing part this quick.
Yeah, we can
Hey,
get into
hey,
anything.
let's go back to that car you ran the
we
ARCA
can-
race. How good was it?
Oh, it's good. Let me tell you something. I got to tell you a story about your dad. So I'd never had a pit stop in my life. Never.
I understand.
I carried tires for my dad.
Right.
I mean, we
Yep.
were talking
Kind
about
of
that
understood
earlier.
the concept.
I understood the concept. Car comes down pit road. They put 4 tires on it, put some gas in it. You go, yeah.
How about you blow
Yeah.
through there?
Wait a
Well,
minute.
no, no,
That's
no.
what I was fixing. There wasn't no pit road speed.
No, there wasn't no pit road speed, but it didn't blow through it. I'd already practiced coming down pit road. I'd blown through it during practice a couple times. So I come in, and so we had John Markham ran ARCA then, and he was partners with Bill France Sr. and stuff, and they owned ARCA,
Yep,
so they were
yep,
partners
yep.
at that point in time. And in the drivers' meeting, and the drivers' meeting that morning, Markham said, "All right, you guys are here for one reason, just to fill space before the Cup guys come out to qualify. They're the show. We're not the show. But we have to put on a little bit of a show. And if you stink up my show, I'm going to black flag you. And if you get too far ahead,"
Yeah.
he said, there's going to be a caution. All right? So that's good. So we're all out there running. It's Billy Hagan, on Terry Labonte's car. And Ron Hutchison, Dick Hutchison's brother, Bob Rezak. There a couple guys. Phil Finney, who should have won the race. A guy named Phil Finney should have won the race that day, but he hit a seagull. That's when we run glass windshields.
Yep.
Remember we run glass windshields. So
How do you remember all that?
I just remember Phil. So,
I know, but
we're
people out there
so
don't.
running. So running. So I come down pit road, slam that baby, boom! I stop, and there's Wade and Barry. Now I mean everybody. You know what I mean? They dropped the jack. I look like Sox and Martin leaving pit road.
Chief is proud.
Let me tell you something. I'm in the car. This is a true story. I'm in the car, and all of a sudden I hear something, and it across the hood and out in front of me is a set of stopwatches your dad threw at me. He threw a set of stopwatches, and they ricocheted off the car, over the car, and out on the pit road. Yeah, because he knew I just blew it up. I had to have just blown it up.
Yep.
Anyhow, I leave pit road. We're all running in a pack. I leave pit road, and after everybody cycles through, we're about 18 seconds ahead of everybody.
Good
They
Lord.
throw a caution.
Yeah.
They throw a caution.
He warned
Bunch us
you.
right back. Yeah, bunch us right back up. But that is the funniest thing. Uncle Marsh used to always say. He said, "Remember, I can throw stopwatches at you." And I'm like, I do remember that, man.
Well, my first live pit stop like that was ARCA car was in Pocono, and we came in there, and like I said, it's live. You could run in there as fast as you wanted to. So I had a little bit of trouble with that, but once I got stopped, I was ready. I got my drink. They dropped the jack. I was, boom.
Oh yeah.
It's killed it. So they're pushing me down
It's-
pit road
it's
trying
one
to
way or
start
the
it.
other. Because
Yeah,
you just
I
don't know
couldn't.
how much to go. You know what I mean? You
So
just
you
don't.
do it.
You don't know it.
Yeah.
You know, it's different.
Now, go back to my first time at Daytona. I got in a crash there at the last practice, and because you want to go out there and learn to draft. So I was
Yeah.
out there with the veterans more or less in the ARCA. Well, hell, they crashed, and I was right at the end. I got in the crash. And I'll never forget. Probably the maddest I ever seen you at me. I'm sitting in the hospital, and they call it a concussion now. We didn't know what it was. It was just ringing your bell.
Yeah, ring your bell.
And I'm in there like, and you come in there and you said, "Where's your helmet?" And I said, "It's I don't know. It's over there." So you got the helmet. It was a helmet I picked up out of the Chrysler barn that was 10 years old.
Yeah.
Oh boy, you went off on me. But that was for 4 days. I don't know where I was at.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
It's crazy. So I'm gonna tell you something. You know, and since we're talking Daytona, and you talk all this, Daytona's been really good to us as a family.
Yep.
And at the same time, there's been some bad things that have happened there. And I go back, and I don't know if y'all have ever heard this story, that the day that Granddaddy crashed, and people assume that crash was in the race,
Right.
But it was a qualifier. It was a qualifying
Yeah.
race. You know what I mean?
It was
People,
the
but
second
you see,
one.
but you see it, and people assume. So I don't know if you've ever heard this story, but they, so Daddy went over the wall in turn 1.
In the first race.
In the first race,
Right.
he went over the wall in turn 1, and there's pictures of him. You know, he's sitting down on the outside of the racetrack, and he says, drive shaft or something came through, and that the car just. He said he moved a little bit, and saw it ricochet off the track, and the car just filled up with air, and just took off. You know, in his estimation, being the aero guy that he is, you know, it just filled up with air. Got up on top of the
Well, something
guardrail.
happened.
Yeah, got up on top of the guardrail, danced a little bit, and went over the bank. So he said, and he told this story not long ago. He said, so they go to the infield care center, and it's Grandma and Granddaddy, Uncle Mars. Everybody's in the infield care center. He's got glass in his eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And he's got glass in his eyes, and they're picking glass out of his eyes.
Oh, no.
And
I never
and
knew that.
the granddaddy come in there, and granddaddy said, "You're gonna drive my car in the next race." And they said, "I can't." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "You're gonna get in my car, and you're gonna run this next qualifying race." And they said, "I can't see." And he said, "You got to get in a car." He said, "I've seen too many people be in bad wrecks and not be able to get back up on the horse. You got to get back on that horse, and you got to do it right now." And the doctor said, "No, you can't get in that car." And
it's another story I never knew.
But you can't get in that car, so he wouldn't let him in it. And Granddaddy went out, and for all intents and purposes, ended his career.
Right.
That
Yeah,
day
yeah,
in the
yeah.
wreck. You know, I know he drove a
Maybe
few
he had
more
a
times.
premonition. You don't know.
But it was so to hear him talk about it, and then to hear them talk about they he was, that's what, 50, what is that?
61.
61.
Yep.
So he's 23 years old.
Yep.
Uncle Morris
Right.
is 20.
Right.
You know what I mean? So Uncle Morris and Daddy come back to level cross.
Yep.
So they never even raced a 61 500 in the car?
They-
neither car.
I didn't know that part.
Here's this is the best part.
Yeah.
They didn't race. Granddaddy's in the hospital.
And
Grandma's
they're
down there
broke.
with him. And they're dead broke.
Yeah.
They're not a little bit broke.
Yeah.
They're not a little
See,
bit
I want to
broke.
get that in. I want
They're
to
not-
get in with this with Richard.
Yeah, they're not a little bit
yeah.
broke. They are dead
Oh,
broke.
man.
They don't have a race car.
Yeah.
There's not a race car. When you roll back into level cross,
There's nothing.
from Daytona and 60. There's nothing.
And then there's people that was working here
that depended on it.
that thought it was going to be over,
Yeah.
and then they went to other places because they thought
Well,
Because they
That's
thought
just-
it was over with.
Yeah.
And for most people,
Yeah, it
would
would've
have
been.
Oh, yeah. And it
But
should have been.
But the whole place lay on the shoulders of a 20
Yep.
and 23-year-old.
That's
kid.
the most amazing
That is the
story.
most
I'm
amazing
glad you
part to
talked
me.
about that, 'cause I
That's-
didn't know
is
all
the
that
main-
had
Yeah,
happened.
it's crazy.
But I knew it was tough.
Yeah, that's the most amazing part to me, that if you look at what Granddaddy did from 49 to 61, he built a dynasty and built a team and a company that won more championships, that won more races, that
Yep.
did more of everything. And then in one weekend,
It was
at
over.
one racetrack, or one day at one racetrack, it was over with. It was crazy. It's crazy to think
But they dug back
that they
out.
had to. Yeah, but it's crazy to think
But
that it's done that twice.
Deep down, was that a blessing?
Yes, that's-
Because you know, wait a minute, we'll get into this. You know
Yeah.
how hard it is for the older guys through the years
To turn it loose.
To turn it over.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
true.
would have Lee Boy ever turned it over to them? It was just kind of.
I don't think
Would
so.
did he? Did he? Ever?
Oh, no.
They did
but
say
he
he
did.
still run the business
Well,
in
He
the
did.
hospital. but
Yeah, he did. He did. Grandma did.
Yeah.
He and Grandma.
But what-
So here's the thing, in the big picture, and you can ask Dave. So here's the way it worked. You had Daddy and Granddaddy that were over here, and you had Grandma and Uncle Morris that were the smart ones. Okay. No. I'm just saying that understood the business. Right.
Well, they were all pretty sharp.
Yeah, but but these guys were more focused on the racing and that part of it. You know what I mean? Not part, but Uncle Morris understood the business and understood the sponsorship and understood that part a lot better. You know what I mean? I
Every
will say
one of
that.
them knew how to think ahead.
But it took all of them to make
Every
it work.
one of
That's
them.
the whole trick.
And they all knew their place.
Yeah.
And everybody done their part.
Yes, without question.
That was.
Yeah, that was the funny part.
Yep.
Yeah,
All
that's,
right.
that's the day when Daddy died. The day he died, and
Yeah.
Richard, he come over there. That was probably one of the saddest moments for me because that unit of
Yeah,
four of
four.
them, he's the last one.
That's right.
And I can't imagine
Yeah.
what he felt because, as we've talked about before, Daddy had a special relationship with Richard.
Yeah.
And he also, the four of them had a special
Oh yeah, they
relationship.
did.
So,
Yeah, they did. And part of that, and let's just go back, and we'll go way back. Part of it started when their house burnt down, when they were born, when Uncle Morris had polio.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
I mean, they went through so
Well, we've
many
done
fires.
that brotherly love deal.
Yeah, but they
and-
went,
and-
but they went through so many fires
They
to
did.
get to where they
But
were
it made
at to
them
be
tougher.
successful. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did.
And they had a bond that we can't even
Yeah,
explain.
no.
let's get into this in another episode. Let's wrap this one up.
I don't want to wrap it up.
Why not? No, I'm
You want
enjoying
to talk
this.
about Christmas?
How'd you know? How'd you know? No,
No,
Christmas it
but I'm
was
saying-
good for everybody.
We're gonna have part 2 on this on the Petty Family channel. So go over to the Petty Family. You can get part 2 of this. We're gonna get into some more stuff here. Like and subscribe. We appreciate you. Thank you.